Have you ever heard or read something and thought, I think they're speaking directly to me? How did they know? Or did they know that I needed to hear that? Well, I've never met Pastor Mary Bauer. I've never been to the church she serves in Appleton, Wisconsin, and I couldn't even find Appleton, Wisconsin on a map. Yet somehow I felt like Pastor Mary was speaking directly to me earlier this week. I started my Monday off with a God Pause devotion written by Pastor Mary on a passage from Proverbs that reads, "Do not put yourself forward in the king's presence or stand in the place of the great. For it is better to be told, 'Come up here,' than to be put lower in the presence of a noble." In her devotion, Pastor Mary recollects a time in seminary when she wrote a paper offering what she thought was a clever critique on St. Augustine's on Christian doctrine. The professor, however, had different thoughts, critiquing the class. "My, aren't we all very wise and learned?" Pastor Mary then reflected on how this experience caused her to fundamentally change the way she approaches texts. She says, "Instead of asking, 'What can I refute?' or 'What can I deny?' I began to ask, 'What is true? What is lovely? And what nurtures faith?'" She then concludes by expanding beyond just how we might approach texts to how we might approach our relationships with others and with the world, maybe even ourselves. She says, "We are not lifted higher by finding fault or looking for inconsistencies in others. Rather, when we nurture and defend the reputation of others, we create a world of understanding." Pastor Mary's concluding thought reminds me of the eighth commandment. "You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor." And then Luther's very pointed explanation. We are to fear and love God so that we do not tell lies about our neighbors, betray or slander them, or destroy their reputations. And then comes this part that just, I wish Luther wouldn't have pointed this out. Instead, we are to come to our neighbor's defense, speak well of them, and interpret everything they do in the best possible light. The best possible light? How am I supposed to do that? We like to imagine ourselves in high and lofty places. Our ways, our ideas, our thoughts are better reasoned, more noble, and most certainly better aligned with God's will, right? But then comes a devotion like this one that seems to speak directly to you, that serves to humble you, to knock you off your throne, perhaps, to cause you to reflect on your own faults and inconsistencies, to ask about the neighbor, what is lovely? And maybe even ask those things about yourself, because after all, we are called to humility, not self-loathing. And to, as Pastor Mary reflected, nurture and defend the reputation of others. To imagine what a world of understanding might look like. So as a final thought exercise, think of a neighbor that you're mad at. Think of the situation or the relationship. How might you, as Luther says, interpret their actions in the best possible light? Granted, this can be very difficult, so you might have to be very creative, because some neighbors are just very hard to deal with. I wonder, might this create a space of understanding that allows for forgiveness and healing? Just something for us to ponder today.